Recently, as I'm sure you're all aware, we announced our 10-year anniversary zine. I asked artists to contribute pieces, and one reached out saying they'd love to do a piece featuring my favorite women characters in games. That's when I realized I have never done a top 10 featuring my favorite women, so I'm remedying that right now. To be clear, this list is not based on who I think's the hottest, most attractive characters, or which characters I'd like to go on a date with. That's not what this is about. Instead, I try to base this list off of 3 things. Fierceness, which is a general sense of badassery, perseverance, which is how the character reacts to adversity, and utility, referring to what these characters actually feel like to play as in their respective games. I've always loved video games as a medium for storytelling. All of the women on this list have been part of some of my favorite stories of all time. So without any more dilly-dallying, here is my list for my top 10 women in games.
Number 10!
Any of you remember Mischief Makers? No, of course you don't. It's a lost gem from the N64, a weird platformer that is wholly one of a kind. But the main character, Marina, is on my list because she's one of the rowdiest, most powerful characters I've ever played as in a game. She's totally unique, and I'm still thinking about this robotic maid 24 years after her debut. Part of what makes Marina so memorable is that her personality perfectly matches her playstyle. She's fast and mighty, yet still bubbly and fun. She gleefully murders everything on screen, shaking and shaking things, and never gets discouraged. And in the game's story, she's in a pretty terrible situation, to be honest. She's trying to rescue an old man who is constantly hitting on her, trying to grope her and all that. But she's more than able to put him in his place and be the hero. Marina is saving a man, not an animal, object, or child. This alone kind of feels revolutionary for the time, and Marina pulls off the hero thing flawlessly. Mischief Makers is a cult classic, and low-key, one of my favorite secret N64 games of all time. And a lot of that is due to Marina easily being one of the coolest women I've ever played as.
Number 9!
Tropes are tropes for a reason, but a lot of the characters on this list take tropes, flip them upside down, and punch them in the face with their brass knuckles. Prim, one of the playable characters from the Super Nintendo classic Secret of Mana, is strong, relentless, and undeniably loyal. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, Prim never backs down from a fight. I love how Prim flips the script on what could be expected of her character. Even though she's the daughter of a higher-up official, she's not afraid to get her hands dirty to protect those that she loves. Her betrothed, Diluc, is in trouble, so she defies her father and sets out to protect him. No matter the odds, Prim shows that she's down to fight. She'll fight anyone and everyone, and I love that about her. Overbearing, nefarious father? Pow! Fight him. Her withered husk of a lover at the end of the game? Bam! Smack him down! Put him out of his misery. This woman even punches her best friend right in the face. Let's go. The stereotype of being a helpless healer in an RPG? Smack down that stereotype to the floor! Prim puts her fists where her mouth is, if that makes any sense. She's an early example in games that proves fighting for what you love isn't a weakness, but in fact a strength. Also, those hammer pants though? Incredible fashion. Get it, girl.
Number 8!
Speaking of hammer pants, the next entry on this list basically brought an entire generation up to speed with those. And of course, the art of belly dancing into transforming into an elephant. It's Shantae, the half-genie hero, first introduced all the way back on the Game Boy Color. She embodies boldness in every respect. She's also the only character who can turn into a spider and still have me be okay with her as a person. Part of what makes Shantae stand out is that she doesn't let others hold her down. Risky Boots, the pirate, is raiding her hometown. She doesn't stand for that, and she courageously defends everyone in Scuttletown. I love that she's sassy. She's easily the sassiest entry on this top 10 list. Shantae meets every challenge with sass, a smile, and of course a dance to even the odds. Shantae's hypnotic dancing makes her one of the most versatile protagonists in the Metroidvania. Throughout the series, she transforms into several different forms depending on the situation. You just scamper up walls and reach hard to access high points, dance into a monkey. The Harpy is totally game-breaking in the original game and super fun to fly around as. Later games let Shantae dance herself into a mermaid, a bat, and even a crab. It seems like there's no limit to Shantae's utility and movement options, making her incredibly fun to play. Shantae really does have it all. She's confident and exuberant, and her gameplay reflects that too. Even her relationships with other characters, like her arch nemesis Risky Boots or frenemy Roddy Tops, are playful and joyous. Even though Shantae's introduction was on the Game Boy Color, her personality leaps off the screen and whips you in the face with a ponytail. Love it. And hey, at the very least, that Game Boy Color game just got released on Switch, so you're welcome. Enjoy. Go play it.
Number 7!
One of my favorite things is when characters get to grow and change over the course of a journey, and any journey through a nightmare will do that. Claire Redfield has always had the heart of a warrior, and over the course of a bunch of different games, has fully come into herself. Plenty of characters start off as hardened action stars, but with Claire, we experience her stepping into her power at the height of a crisis. And it's rad. A hyper-violent zombie outbreak might not be the best time to discover that you're a badass actually, but Claire Redfield meets the situation head on. Claire could have come to Raccoon City and immediately noped out of there, but she wants to figure out what happened to her brother. She stands her ground and in turn becomes a goddamn hero. And listen, I have nothing against Jill Valentine or Ada Wong in terms of lady badasses from the Resident Evil series. Maybe even Lady Dimitrescu will crack into a future list once Village comes out. But Claire's journey to become a stone cold legend is incredible and makes it an easy decision to put her into this lineup.
Number 6.
Combining grace and power with high kicks that will knock you out, Chun-Li is one of the most iconic characters in gaming, man or woman. She's got it all. Fierceness like you wouldn't believe. Perseverance in how she never stops trying to put M. Bison behind bars. And yeah, she's got utility as one of the best fighting game characters ever conceived of. Her legs alone have made careers and ended them. Chun-Li is the complete package. Tragic backstory where her cop father was murdered that she overcomes to pursue justice? Hell yeah. A fighting style all her own, featuring every type of kick imaginable, and probably one of the most recognizable moves of all time, the lightning kick. Right there, half your health is gone, my dudes. She's the first female fighter in the Street Fighter series, and ever since her debut, she's been a central part of Capcom's brand. She and Ryu are the only Street Fighter character to show up in every Capcom vs. series game, and there's a reason that it's not just Ryu who showed up in Fortnite. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Chun-Li appeared in Smash Ultimate, but I am all out of the predictions game, so who knows? One thing I do know is that Chun-Li never goes out of style. Now, before we continue with this top 10, I just want to let you guys know that if you'd like to directly impact what games I complete here on the show, then you can join us over at the mini producer tier at patreon.com/thecompletionist. This block, we are asking for Sega Genesis game submissions, and the game with the most submissions will be the game that I'll be completing. So head on over to our Patreon. The link is in the description box down below. Back to the list.
Number 5.
Best profession in a video game? Bounty Hunter. Best Bounty Hunter? Samus Aran, hands down. Had to pick a mainline Nintendo character eventually, right? And Samus deserves every spotlight. She's cool, confident, powerful, yet still capable of showing vulnerability. She's a pro at adapting to any situation she comes across in the darkness of space, and her heroics are spread far and wide across the galaxy. Also, she's my Smash main. Even before they went ahead and added a bunch of lore to Samus' backstory, I loved how she was depicted in Super Metroid. Over the course of the entire franchise, she doesn't speak much, yet players can get a sense of who she is by how she uses the tools she finds and mercilessly executes any enemy she comes across. If there's a problem, Samus just handles it herself. Well, with Other M kind of being that weird exception. Authorization to use missiles? Come on here, folks, what are we doing? Samus always perseveres in the face of danger, and she's always got more tools in her toolkit than probably anyone else on this list. Her backstory is teased a little more throughout the Prime series and establishes that the space pirates are absolutely terrified of her. Samus straight up inspires fear in her enemies. She's got nothing to prove because she's shown herself to be a remarkably resourceful hunter ever since the NES days. And one of these days, we will get Metroid Prime 4, and we can all be reminded of how awesome she is. But I'm content to wait, and in the meantime, I'll do another speedrun of Super Metroid.
Number 4.
Top 10s are enjoyable to make because half the fun is making the list and seeing everyone lose their minds because I didn't put a specific character or entry from a game on a list. Yes, I'm sure The Witcher 3 DLC is awesome, but I don't need another 500-hour RPG on my plate, guys. Hashtag sorry not sorry, because you're all masochists. The next one just might be the wild card because I can guarantee that there are other characters people would have put here before this next pick. It's the MacGyver of Mega Man Legends, Roll. There's so many reasons why I love Roll. She's a freaking genius for one, always excited to learn and tinker with gadgets. But when I was putting together my picks for this list, Roll kept springing to mind because of how nuanced the character is. She's not the main character, obviously, and she's not even a playable one, but her genuineness, her passion for learning, her real friendship with Mega Man helps her stand out even more. Roll is not a caricature like Tron Bomb, just a good friend always striving to learn more about the world. She's in Mega Man's ear the whole game, and she's there for every major plot beat and pivotal moment. There's no way Mega Man could succeed in Legends without Roll's help. She's selfless and she doesn't show any any kind of resentment at being the gal in the chair. She's fun to talk to, thanks to the excellent performance of her voice actor Tracy Ryan. Many video game characters are forced to be tough at all times. I love that one of Roll's defining characteristics is that she's kind. She wants to be the best that she can be, and that's why she'll always be one of my favorite characters in the Mega Man franchise.
Number 3.
Alright, so I know I said at the top of this list that this list is specifically not about who I would want to date. However, this next entry does have a sprinkling of that, but only because that's a giant part of how you play this game. Persona 5 consumed hundreds of hours of my life, for better and worse, and I spent time going on dates and getting to know every single character in the game. I know that this fandom has its favorite characters that people will fight to the death over, and for me, Persona 5 character with the most interesting arc and who embodies the qualities of fierceness, perseverance, and utility is An Takamaki. Let the flame wars begin! Persona 5 has a ton of great characters, men and women, but the way An overcomes some really tough obstacles right at the beginning of the game has always stuck with me. She's traumatized by one of the most evil scumbags in Japan, the teacher Kamoshida, an abuser who thinks he's untouchable. But with the help of Joker, Ryuji, and Morgana, An steps confidently into her persona and helps take this skeevy son of a bitch down. But An still has a lot of trauma to process, and that became one of the most fascinating parts of Persona 5. Getting to know An on dates opened a window into her world, where she's trying to fit in as a mixed-raced girl who doesn't really know what she wants to do in life. She has big dreams, but doesn't know how to actualize them. And of course, she's still grappling with the fact that her best friend almost killed herself. But even with all of this real-life trauma, not to mention the added stress of battling shadows and navigating the mementos, An is unselfish and kind. I was moved by how much she cared for her friends and stood up for what's right. My only issue is that her arc wraps up fairly early on, especially compared to some of the other confidants in the game, but that's mostly due to the structure of Persona 5 as a game and how you decide to play. I'll always remember An's journey and how she learned to fight for herself. She's an inspiration.
Number 2.
Sometimes, the only way to truly get to know an individual is to see them at their absolute worst. Seeing someone broken and stressed out can reveal things that they might keep hidden otherwise. Over the course of playing through Catherine Full Body, all of Vincent's love interests see him for who he is at various stages of romantic involvement. It's interesting to see how Catherine, and Catherine carry themselves throughout this adventure. But Gerard, I can hear you, the masses shouting, which Catherine did you end up with? The super hot blonde? The overbearing and uptight librarian type? The one who starts her name with Q. This might infuriate a small percentage of you guys, but hey, it's my list, so f it. Whatever I say goes, am I right, my dudes? My pick from Catherine Full Body is all 3 Catherines, because after platinuming this game, I saw every angle of every possible romantic entanglement, and I couldn't imagine putting just one on this list. One of my favorite aspects of Catherine Full Body is that every character, from the Catherines to the douchey barflies posted up at the stray sheep every night, have incredible depth and nuance. The Catherines, all 3 of them, could simply be classified as different kinds of sexy pinups that are easy to write off. But they're not on this list because of sex appeal, but because of how all 3 have fantastic arcs. I got to know these characters, and in knowing them, learned to love them. Each of these characters, and yeah, Vincent too, are growing all the time. Initially, Catherine with a Q comes across as a meek, naive person who barely knows how to navigate the world. But over the course of playing the game and pursuing a relationship with them, I watched them grow. Seeing Catherine learn that the world is far more than just however Vincent lives his life is kind of thrilling. Everything Catherine sees is fresh and new and exciting, and helped give me a little perspective on what it feels like to view the world with fresh eyes. Catherine with a K tends to get the short end of the stick. To put it delicately, she can be perceived as someone who's stomping on Vincent's lifestyle and imposing her own choices over his. But honestly, I respect the living hell out of her. She's been in a relationship with this doofus for a long ass time, and she's looking for some damn commitment here. When you're in a relationship where you have to operate in the struggle zone for so long, it's natural to try and get a straight answer from your significant other. She's a realist, and understanding that made me appreciate her character. And some of her unlockable endings show her living her absolute best life without Vincent, and I'm genuinely happy for her. Alright, so spoilers for Catherine, I guess. Catherine with the C technically isn't a real person. She's a succubus, a sex demon invading the dreams of men, including Vincent. But when you double down and really pursue a relationship with her, you realize that she actually does care about Vincent. Somehow, in her own twisted way, she wants to be with him, and if you go down that path, you wind up as the new demon king of hell. normal stuff. Now, what I love best about all three of these characters is that they're already strong women, and over the course of getting to know them, you become stronger. Sometimes becoming stronger means leaving Vincent in the dust, and that's fine because he kinda sucks. But some choices and the endings that result from them show that Vincent has grown and changed too, including my favorite, where Vincent and Rin fly around the galaxy, enjoying each other and seeing what there is to see. All these Catherines are my favorite, and they're all tied for the second place slot. Alright, so obviously there are many women in games who are fierce, full of perseverance, and offer so much to their respective games, whether it's as a playable character or in the help they provide to a protagonist. But they can't all make a list like this, especially because it's so weird. So I want to give a quick shout out to some honorable mentions who I didn't put on this list. Not because they don't deserve it, they do, but I want it to be a little bit different with my list. So here we go. Ellie from The Last of Us. You'll always be one of the fiercest infected slayers around. Princess Zelda. You should have started something better than the Wand of Gamelon because you rule. Commander Shepard, you're smart, strong, and capable, and Jennifer Hale makes you infinitely more compelling to listen to than your male counterpart in my opinion. Aloy, your search for information about your heritage is heartfelt and compelling, and the way you shoot robo-dinos with arrows is jaw-dropping. Hornet, you're pointy as hell, and I cannot wait for Silksong to take the world by storm. There are obviously dozens more, but there's only one who can be the top at this list.
Number 1!
Something I think about all the time is how I want to be remembered. Like, what I want people to think about when they think of me. I try to be a positive guy, right? To make the world a little bit of a better place. It's a small contribution to be sure, but I like to think that sometimes I'm making a difference. Of all the women in video games, this character makes the world a better place, even in the bleakest of circumstances. Because even in the Sector 7 slums, you might stumble across a flower patch. And if you do, you'll meet Aerith. For the longest time in video games, Aerith from Final Fantasy VII was simply the character you never want to put in your party because she wasn't exactly around for that long, spoiler alerts. Why would I spend time as a player leveling up a character who wasn't in the game all that much when I knew that in advance? But I grew to appreciate the impact she had on Cloud and friends. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, Aerith is recontextualized to be an integral part of the story. And what's amazing is that the character hasn't been fundamentally changed, just expanded upon to highlight the things that were already wonderful about her. In a world full of darkness, Aerith is pure light and life and hope. She's a flower girl, bringing joy into the most joyless environments. She's held on to that sense of that there will always be something to live for, even in a world defined by ultra-rich and ultra-sinister corporations like Shinra. Aerith isn't afraid to laugh in spite of the darkness of the world, and that sense of fun is infectious. One of the biggest mysteries of the upcoming games in the remake canon is whether or not Aerith will meet her original fate. We simply don't know, and there's no use speculating. I have no insider information, I swear. But one of the great things about the original Final Fantasy VII is that Aerith's death becomes meaningful. She's the shadow driving force of the game, and coming to terms with how she dies is perfectly in line of one of the main themes of the game. Loss. I and probably a million others grieved for Aerith the first time when I saw her passing. She becomes a symbol, kind of like the materia that she carries. The materia that does nothing, but eventually turns into the power of Holy, the most powerful force in the game. Aerith, the concept of her, has grown into a legend at this point, but I appreciate that the remake brings her back into reality and grounds her all over again. She's a person, not a myth, and brings out the best qualities of everyone around her. Aerith reminded a jaded content creator like me that there's good to be found in the world. She's a beacon of hope, and that's why she'll always be the number one to me. So there it is, my top 10 women in games. Feel free to disagree with my choices in the comments down below, but no, at the end of the day, it's just opinions, my dudes. And every character deserves a spotlight at some point. And hey, want to pick up the zine that inspired this list? Pre-orders close at the end of the week, so don't miss out on getting a piece of Completionist history. Thanks for watching.